Hello again, it's Caroline Mary here, host of Ascension TV Online. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're having a great day on this beautiful Friday. Feels like the coming back to school energy is fully with us, so I'm really enjoying that. So today I just wanted to hop on and just speak a little bit about spiritual awakening. It's been a big theme in my life, and it's taken me a long time to realize some of the mistakes I made after I had a really profound Kundalini activation when I was in university, and it's what led me to write the book Who Called You Crazy? You're Having a Spiritual Awakening, which is coming out in just a few weeks' time. So firstly, I want to describe what might happen when you're having a spiritual awakening, and then why it's really important to claim your own narrative. And let's switch it around, actually. I'll just talk about that for now, because in the book Who Called You Crazy? Having a Spiritual Awakening, which I did talk about in episode 3, I was just running through the chapters. So the first chapter I invite people to do, if you've had a spiritual awakening and you might have been sectioned, like not everyone when they awaken spiritually gets locked up, because you could read a book, realize that you'd had these experiences, think, oh my God, there is something out there after all. You might have a vision, something like this. But if you are having a lot of energetic activations, it can really manifest in a way that shows up in your life, how you act around people, and it can take some integrating so that you come back to a place where you're calm, but you're really enjoying this newfound sense of self and maybe your new outlook on life, should we say that. So when I had my activations, the first one happened in university, and then later in my two massive surges in my later 20s, and both times I felt like I knew what was happening, but I didn't feel like I had to describe it. So I had no narrative. I just was like, this is amazing. I'm having all these visions. I'm having all this download of information. It's like a cinema was happening, and it was just unbelievable. And it just felt like I was coming home. So for me, I was really happy. But what was happening is people around me were like, oh my God, what the hell is happening to Caroline? Essentially, I was in an altered state. So if you've heard of shamans, that is essentially when a shaman's really going into making prayers and connecting with the other realms. It's quite common to go into a trance state. Now, not all mediums need to do that. So if you look at Western mediums, people that do card readings, things like this, people like Diana Cooper, a teacher that I've followed for years, she'll be channeling, and she'll just have this moment. And I do it, when I'm on calls with clients. Yeah. So when you're used to it, it becomes second nature, because ultimately your vibration is high enough to match the beings that you're connecting to. Whereas prior to a spiritual awakening, we might have like a slightly lower frequency and we're not connecting. So think of it as a radio dial. You turn up the dial, you're raising your vibration and you're connecting to beings that resonate here. Whereas to begin with, you might have eaten not so great food, you might be quite clogged up in your aura, you might have had a lot of trauma, and you're vibrating here, and all you're doing is looking out onto the physical realm. And if you think of gas, water and ice, you can see the difference in how something that we know is water changes, right, depending on frequency. And when we say frequency, what I mean is it's like temperature. How much energy does this body of water have? Is it going to act like gas and you don't even see it? Does it condense into water? Does it condense even more into ice? And to me, that analogy has helped me loads of times remember my own shifts in vibration, but also describe to other people what you can be expecting. So firstly, if you're having any type of awakening and that's what's happening to you, you're seeing visions, you're connecting to guides, claim your narrative. Because I was called bipolar and it really pissed me off, frankly. It really, really upset me, because what I felt is people were undermining what was really important for me and just saying it's just a crazy illness, you're just having a hallucination, and everything you're experiencing is just not acceptable for us. And that was not okay. For me, that's not okay, all right? And that's that's for me why the anger has come up again and again and again around this. And I've questioned myself and thought, why am I feeling like this? And ultimately, if you think of us as we're not just a physical body, we're an energy being, right? So we've got an aura. If somebody starts telling you this, you start shrinking, and like at some point you're going to go, fuck off, I need to come back, right? I'm allowed to be me. But of course, in school, in often jobs, not being funny, family members, our parents, they can really start crushing you because they're putting their belief system on you. So you start coming in and crunching up, and I've ate 3 times after I had my awakenings because I was profoundly suppressed, profoundly shamed, like almost made to feel like I'd done something really wrong, as though I was just pissing people off for the sake of it, just by being alive. It was so disheartening. I was depressed, and of course that is exactly what they say, you're bipolar, you see, you had your high, you had your low. Whereas in my understanding, you're going to have a natural integration phase when you've had an expansion. So if you think you boil water, it's boiling, you take it off the stove, guess what? It calms down, it goes flat again. Yeah, it starts, and if you put it outside in the winter, it's going to turn to frost. So in a sense, we can see the depression as an integration phase, but it doesn't have to be so depressing. But it is if you're having loads of people around you saying, oh, you can't say that, that's bollocks, you're imagining this, which is kind of what I felt. It wasn't so explicitly like that, but when you're being locked up for how you're being, you certainly start believing you are not allowed to be like this. So I had to crush myself down, shut my mouth, try and act normal, pretend I was something I bloody well wasn't, just so I would get away and get out and be able to get off the medication. And I'm not saying medication is bad or wrong. I've met so many people over the years that haven't had the tools that I've had, the insight that I've had, the courage, or just the ease that coming off any medication just wasn't it just wasn't an option for them. And I'm not judging anyone, but believe me, for me it just was not going to be the case. I don't take headache tablets. In fact, I don't really get headaches, right? So that's a different point. But the point is, when I've had really severe period pain, as soon as I understood about healing and looking after yourself in a holistic way, I would take time out and I would do healing. I put my hands on my bellies, and guess what? My period pain went away. I didn't need a pill. And I've always, to me, that is something that I've always had inside. I've had that claircognizance that has always driven me to find a natural solution. Okay, it's why I tend to eat healthily. It's why I keep healthy. If you looked in my bathroom, you only see a few products and they last me for a long time, because I just don't use all of those things that are actually frankly toxic, that are touted as the next best thing in luxury healthcare. It's just, to me, it's just utter crap. But that's because I've had that soul deep heart knowing that what felt right and wrong for me. And that's fine, everyone's on a journey, no judgment. It's just, for me, that's why I was just so angry about getting locked up. And it's, as I said, it's taken me years to start confronting those things, allow myself, no, I was angry because it just felt like I wasn't allowed to speak, and people were coming into my home, into my space, and then judging me. And that's like, I could go into any house and start judging people. And I guess you could also say that's a mirror, because I have gone, oh, this is a bit untidy in here, I don't really feel comfortable, I'm going to leave. We all have that, but when you're having that a lot, it becomes really freaking frustrating. And I know now as well from my journey, and this will be probably the same for many of you, that my incarceration in this life reflects the journeys in other lifetimes when I was a healer, a shaman, a seer, all sorts of things, and I was burned. I was, even in this town that I was in, I've had people share with me their visions from other lifetimes where I was being burn and the community turned against me, because in times of stress, we know that you don't know how you're going to act. If I was under stress, I might end up selling somebody out. You don't know, so there's no judgment there. But the thing is, what happens in our lifetimes is that we will have similar activities happen to us, so that we're forced to feel the feelings that have happened, that's mirrored back through lifetimes, so that we can start healing. This is why on a quantum level, a lot of the healing work that I do with my clients, it's not just this is what happened in my childhood, it's this is what's happened, but this is a mirror of this, this and this and this, because we have those soul imprints and we're carrying them until we start doing the healing. So it's no judgment, it's just how it is, and that was my journey. But if you are lucky enough to just have a spiritual awakening and you don't have another label given to you because it wasn't so extreme for you, amazing, and I'm so excited for you. And if you're only just awakening, welcome to this amazing world. You will not believe how many people there are in the world now speaking about a new way of being, a new earth where we're all coming together, that borders are dropping, that there'll be like governing bodies that are actually wanted and actually listening to the people. It's not like that at the moment. We're seeing a really polarized world. We know this because things tend to get worse before they get better. So if in your own life, and I see this again and again in coaching and in my own self-inquiry practice, that habits that aren't healthy tend to seem to get louder and louder in a worst case scenario until such a point that everyone involved is like, okay, we can't do this anymore. Yeah, it's like a volcano, and then the pressure bursts and then something's got to change. So at the minute things are coming to light and people saying, oh my god, it's terrible, and people that are intuitive, let's say, or been awake for years, you know that it was like that. I've never trusted the government. As a child I was like, these guys are just not helping us. But other people, they've trusted them, and then it takes something like COVID or a war or something like that for people to go, oh, actually, something's not right here. Yeah, and that's fine. We're all on a different journey. We've all got different life experiences and different intuition, so that's fine. So coming back to spiritual awakening, the first thing I always will recommend is that exactly, trust your instinct. Okay, go find people that are resonating with you, and if you have to leave some of your friends and your community behind to go and find new people, which I've had to do, because people would turn their nose up, they'd laugh, they'd chuckle at me and think, oh, roll their eyes, you're so cute. And frankly, it got to the point where I was just like, no, sorry guys, like, you don't get to do that anymore. Enough. I'm going, and I'm going to go and find my tribe. And I have, I do wellbeing fairs, and I go to wellbeing fairs, and it's nothing to talk about a past life, a vision, talking to a guide or angel, seeing like specific animal guides in real animals appearing and bringing you messages. It's nothing. Whereas how I used to be and the people I was with before, it was like they were slightly open to it, but not really. And it meant that I just couldn't speak. And when I did speak, it from my heart, from my experiences, it was just not welcome. And of course, you're not going to go talk about football in a rugby match, right? Because it's just different people, right? Lemons and apples, it's fine. We're all different, so that's fine. So, one of the other steps of the integration that I would also invite you, claim your narrative so that you're really honouring yourself, but also you're probably going to have to start changing your habits, your hobbies, how you spend your time, the people you're around. And it's no disrespect to the people. Like, rugby players aren't better than football players. It's just that if you like rugby, go see a rugby match. If you like football, go see a football match, right? You can't sit in a rugby match and then moan that it's football. And that's what I was doing, right? I didn't realise that there was so many people that are talking about spiritual awakening and beliefs and other lives and incarnations and like ascended masters and other realms and all this stuff. It's just completely normal in the people that I am now connected to. Okay, I feel weird because I'm not weird, right? Whereas I used to be like, well, I'm just a weird one. Oh, well, never mind, it's just Caroline. And now it's like, no, it's just Caroline. Yeah, because it's normalized with the people that I'm around. Okay, so let me just see what I was going to say. We're talking about spiritual awakening. So the first step, absolutely claim your narrative, okay? It doesn't matter if other people just I've had people say, oh, well, you're like me, you're bipolar. No, I'm not bipolar. I had awakenings and I had integrations, okay? Okay, so the second thing, and that's another story. It's like, if you want to call yourself bipolar, you go ahead, friend. But when you carry in a label like that, you're going to start feeding in and like feeling into and receiving the collective beliefs around something. So last year I went to have an autism diagnosis, and I started really following the diet, the terminology. And whilst it's been helpful to look at the let's say symptoms that are collectively acknowledged as being part of the autistic spectrum, I would rather take them, look at them, see if I can change it, see where it might have come from, develop some skills to help myself, and accept it, and not see, oh, it's just because I'm autistic, because to me that is denying any self-responsibility of things that you're struggling with. It doesn't mean that I don't still struggle with things because I do that. It just means that I'm not going to say, oh well, I give up, I'm this, because a lot of people would be like, oh, you're bipolar, just never expect to be normal or have a normal life. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't accept that. I have struggled at times to integrate the spiritual awakening, and writing the book and finishing the book, Who Called You Crazy, You're Having a Spiritual Awakening, was actually, it's as much about me integrating my awakening and looking at everything I've done, but also what I might need to still do, as it is about then offering you as friends, new friends, people that are just awakening to a spiritual understanding, a spiritual path consciously. We're all on the spiritual path, but whether you choose to accept that in an explicit way in your life is a very different matter, isn't it? Right? To me, we're all in the same reality, but how we experience it, the perceptions and our language is different. So the second thing, if you're having a spiritual awakening and you're struggling, okay, and you don't want to have such extreme experiences, because when in my book, when I'm offering alternative narratives, one of the narratives that I give is the Kundalini awakening, which again, when 20 years ago, when I was waking up, that there was nobody memeing on Facebook, but I wasn't on social media. I didn't barely use computers or the internet back then, so I had no language. Okay, but once I started coming across that language, I was like absolutely spot on. The energy coming through me was so strong. I was so activated that I had a lot of energy. I didn't feel like I needed to sleep so much. I was having all those insights, because what's happening is it's energy that's coming down from source, right? Ultimately we're all connected to source, unless we're trying hard not to. But if you're alive, you're full of energy, right? You cannot be alive and not have energy. So we're all energy beings. We're all connected to the matrix of energy that is behind the other matrix that we know to love, we love to hate and all of that. And but it connects through your chakral system, through your nadis, through the meridian system, so your whole body is like lighting up. It's like having a bulb and then actually plugging it in, whereas a bulb just on its own bobbling around, it hasn't got light, and then you plug it in, poof, the light comes. And for many of us, because I will say school is trauma, okay? It's 10 years of prison. You're not allowed to speak freely, you're not allowed to just get up and use the bathroom, you're told to do this, that and the other, don't be like this. It starts contracting us, so all our chakras are starting to get blocked. Any free sense of creativity, it's blocked. You are getting homogenized into a little worker bee. You're not encouraged to be free. If you're a bit different, you've got a label, you're ADHD, this, that and the other. You're not allowed to allow yourself to be free. Okay, it's like so-called free-range chickens that are actually in tiny little pens, right? But legally it's allowed. So when we start waking up and we have more energy, what happens is our energy body is like, oh, we don't know what to do. It's like almost blowing a fuse. And for some of us, if you've already awoken a bit, perhaps it's not going to be so profound. If you had parents that were very open-minded, so you were really encouraged to express yourself, all of that type of stuff. I know people that have just sailed through their awakening in some degree. It doesn't mean, we'll come to this later about integrating our shadows, but they generally didn't struggle to the point where they ended up getting sectioned, because the difference between their self before and during and after was not so profound. Okay, but for some of us, there was obviously such a profound shift when the energy started moving through us, hence this phrase of Kundalini awakening or activation. It can be really discombobulating for those around us. As I said, for me, I just felt good. I was just like, finally, this feels like I'm actually coming home. I'm actually starting to really get the insights I was getting. It was just like, it just makes so much sense to me as a soul. The connecting to the intuitions that I had growing up and different things that happened growing up on my inner world. But for some, it can be really disheartening, and that's why I'm quite passionate about speaking to it. It's almost a bit like sucking eggs. For some people, they've read about this, it's nothing new. But if you're just awakening, it can be really disconcerting, because you're like, is my body buzzing? Why am I speaking quicker? Why am I getting all these visions in my head? Because if you're getting visions, that's your third eye awakening. You're getting information downloads that are going to help you in like the coming time in your life. You're accessing wisdom because you've opened. And the thing is, if you open your third eye chakra so much, one of the things going to happen is you're going to start seeing spirit, which I had in the third awakening that I had. I was seeing spirits all around my partner's home, but because I had an idea of what was happening, I was using it. I was calling them in. I was asking for help because I felt that he was quite struggling. So I was in, rightly or wrongly so, who knows, as a jury's out on that one, but I was calling in spirits to help him because I wanted to send him healing. So my intuition was really starting to come on strong. The part of me that's done healing in other lives, that can see energy and intuitively understand what somebody might need to support them. Obviously I hadn't asked him, which isn't something you do. I've learned that obviously you need to actually check in with people, but right then it felt like a protection for me because of how he was being, and it felt like I was balancing our energies, but that's another story. So there's a lot of things that can happen with your spiritual awakening, but one of the things in the second chapter in the book, once you've like claimed, actually no, this is a spiritual awakening, I'm integrating my soul, I'm activating my shamanic self, these are all different narratives that you might feel are happening. You're activating and accessing your Christ energy. And again, a lot of people, when they have a really profound awakening, they actually believe they're Jesus. And if you've ever had that, no judgment here, okay? Because I'm aware now, because of something that happened in my own journey, when I started thinking I was an incarnation of somebody. And my mentor, Angela Aurora Medway Smith, helped receive the messages from spirit that I wasn't that person, but what had happened is I had a simulation prior to this life. And what you can do is literally like take on the memories and the feelings of everything that soul encountered. And for me it was Madame Blavatsky, okay? And I'm really able to just say I have no judgment that was part of my journey, because what it actually meant is that because I'd asked Angela and said, oh, can you just check this out for me? She works with spirit, she's an incredible channel, and she was like, no, spirit's saying this, and actually Madame Blavatsky is almost, you could say, a bit of a guide of mine. So in the spirit realm, I actually work with her. I obviously connect with her. So there was a real heart-led connection to her. So that's why you can think that you're that person. So my intuition is that a lot of people, because obviously Jesus led such a profound life and he would have gone through so many activations, perhaps more than anybody else on earth, who knows, because of the profound role that he played, and not just to be killed, right, but so he could legitimately die his body and then bring himself back to life, right? That was something that he would have trained to do a lot of times, to understand on a quantum level, like how we are not the body, we are the eternal being surrounding within and without the body, and how we can live. I mean, I've always thought we can live for hundreds of thousands of years, and now many more people are actually saying that. Again, that's like a soul memory for me. I've always known I was an eternal soul, but I mean actually in our body, because when we're in alignment, which is why I do Ascension Alignment coaching, as the stress in our system just goes, so nothing is degenerating, okay? And people expect, oh, when I get to this age, this is going to happen. It's absolute crap. It's just beliefs, and in the neural pathways and in their DNA. And once you realize that, you start shifting that reality on a it's like a quantum level, right? We just start shifting everything. So of course, if just coming back to what I was saying about if you've had an awakening and you believe you're Mary Magdalene, which is going to be another common one, Mother Mary or Jesus, it's possible that pre-life you had a simulation, a soul simulation, so you could pick up the wisdom of them, but then at a certain point you need to like go and check that out and say, actually, did I? And is it, is it helpful for me to believe that, or is there other reality? And of course, the other side of that shadow and integrating your shadow is a massively important part of your spiritual awakening. I'll come to that in a minute. Do I actually need to just claim I am good enough, even if I didn't have some famous past life, right? Actually, right? And for a lot of us, we are brought up, you're not good enough until X, Y, and Z. Okay, and I still find parts of myself running me subconsciously, and then realise this is my I need to feeling, and it's bollocks. It's just absolute bollocks. We're already good enough. We're already loved by Creator. We're already perfect. Yes, we can grow. We can learn new things. We can heal our shadow. We can heal our child. But that doesn't mean that we aren't already having a perfect, like Christ self or Buddha self that is behind the play of this current incarnation, where we're going through certain curriculum and like almost simulated trauma dramas so that we can learn and grow and heal and let go of karma. Okay, so the second chapter in the book, and the second thing I really recommend for people when, as I said, if you've had a really challenging awakening, is look at the things that contribute and stop it, basically. So, for example, I smoked marijuana since from the time when I was 16 until about 26 or 7. I had to obviously stop smoking when I went to hospital, although people were still like breaking in weed, and I'm just like could not be bothered with that. I'm not that desperate for the weed. And then by the time I left and then got sectioned again, I'd had such a time without it. I started realising, shit, actually, I need to have time without that in my system. And of course, years later, I understand about plant medicines. And I believe a lot of us self-medicate. We are seriously unhappy with the state of the earth. We don't know the part that we're playing. And to me, again, part of the gift of spiritual awakening is starting to realise you do have a part to play. It doesn't matter whether that's being a mother, writing a book, doing some TV, YouTube thing that I'm doing, which I just feel like I just need a space to share things, right, that I've experienced. I want to give that back to people, and also interview people that I really admire in my life. Or whether it's working in a shop, it doesn't matter, but there will be a specific plan that you made pre-life that you're going to be giving back to the earth, that you're going to be taking part in your community. And for a lot of us, we can feel, yeah, I can do this job because I have X amount of skills and grades, but it doesn't fit, it doesn't quite fit the key in the lock. It's like, it works, but it's a bit off. And I felt that in every job I'd ever had, okay? I worked in cafes, and I love looking after people. I love making people feel welcome. And every job I've done has led me to where I am. So there's no mistakes, but I certainly knew this wasn't going to be the end of it. I just felt like I cannot have had such profound awakenings to then be treated like crap in a cafe, working all the hours under the sun, barely afford to just live. I just was like, it doesn't feel fulfilling. I'm not allowing myself, I can't, but if you think of us as a tree growing, for that part of me, it was perfect. I was getting people skills. I was getting that organisation skills. I was learning how to hold people. I had a lot of skills. I learned how to make a lot of food, so I can easily cook for a lot of people now. Don't even think about it, and they're all skills that have helped me in other parts of my life, but it didn't feel right. It just didn't have that yes feeling. Whereas other people that go and open a cafe, they just love it, or they love the humdrum of working with, not the humdrum, sorry, the buzz of working, say behind a bar. It's, and I did that in university, and then bit by bit, it was just like, it's not fulfilling anymore, right? So what I was going to say, so coming back to the marijuana, I really realised, okay, I need to stop this, and I really could see how it as a medicine had helped me it had given me so much insight, because it is a mind altering drug. We know this, okay? It can really open your third eye. But obviously for me, I was way too open, and I needed to integrate everything I'd experienced. And so for me, one of the massively important parts of spiritual awakening is the integration. And this is why in chapters, when I was writing the book and really finishing the structure, I realised I need to tell you why you need to integrate this shit, because if you don't, you're going to do what I did and take the bit from the top and just be like, yeah, man, oh my God, I found God. Everything's going to be easy. And then be like, what the fuck? Why am I getting all this shit going on in my life? Because you have to integrate, okay? Having your awakening, the transfiguration, as it's called by, I quote them in the book. There's a beautiful book called Climb the Highest Mountain. I can't think, the Godfreys. They lived in America, and they created the Summit Lighthouse, all about Saint Germain or Saint Germain and ascended masters, and they channeled so much stuff. And I read this book in Portugal, and it was just like, oh, like, okay, I get it now. So they say the transfiguration is that moment of like God, like, oh my God, and it is undescribable. It's not so, if you haven't had that, you I guess I can understand why people think that, you know, you're off your head when you haven't had that true God moment, when you really are like, no, I just absolutely know there is something else beyond the physical. But after that is when you start climbing the highest mountain. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're failing, it doesn't mean you're bad, it doesn't mean you're being punished, but what it means is at a certain point in your life, and it didn't happen for me straight away, but you will have to start facing karma. And, you know, actually, to be honest, when I was a kid, I if things happened, I used to say that to myself, if not to somebody else, yeah, that's my karma. Like, somebody's been shit to me, well, that's probably my karma. There was a really deep sense that actually I've been a bit of a shitter, and if people are nasty to me, I probably was nasty to them in another life. And it doesn't take away the sting of the pain, the hurt, the emotionality, but it does stop you thinking the world is attacking you, because it's not. It is literally that pre-life you will have signed up to take on more, maybe even more karma, okay, than you chose, or have certain lessons from certain people in your life, certain characters. Yeah, they're real people, they're beings, they're souls, but they will be playing a role, and that will help your growth. And a lot of people, I'm so sad, and I've got wrapped up into this, but this narcissist shame and blame, and it's just like everyone in this world has been hurt by somebody at some point. It's the way it's been. Like, we are in the best of times. Like, the world in the dark ages was sick. People just pull out blooming nails from people, you know, just to get a confession that they knew was, you know, humans have been disgusting to each other. So yes, in comparison, like every year that time goes on, it's getting more love, more light, more self-awareness, so we can all look back at our parents. I've done it, like my parents, oh, they did this and this and this to me. You can call them all sorts of stuff, but like ultimately, why? They were hurt in any, you know, they were hurt because they were hurt, and all those cycles, and we're the people that are like basically undoing all of that cycles, and not only for our family lineage but our own soul lineage. So we're, you know, if you're really in that point where you're like, why is everything's going so shitty, because I had a really nice awakening and I felt the presence of God and all the angels around me, and now it's all going horrible, it's your karma, it's your lesson. It's just, if you see it as a lesson, no problem. And some people will argue that that is because that's a belief system. If you believe it, you're just going to be in that. I don't. I think as soon as you learn a lesson, your whole energy will shift and you're gone. That's it. Like, next thing. And your energy will shift. I was on a healing call last night with a lady called Caroline Oceana Ryan. She's an absolutely incredible lady. Go follow her, look her up. She's unbelievable. I've had loads of different channels, messages from her and healings. And I've known for some time that I've struggled to put myself out in the world in a way that I see other people, let's say it like that. You know, I've done a lot of trainings, I've got like loads of books on my computer that are still half written, you know, that they'll be coming out in the right time following this first one. And yet there hasn't been an excitement. There hasn't been like an easy, great, I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to do book launches. And it, you know, bit by bit, I've done my work, and she channeled for me. It's because I was killed in a certain lifetime, and it is still like playing through my system. Yeah. And that's no one to blame. It's just literally in my energy field, there's an aspect of me that is still like terrified of being known as a healer, to share things with writing, because I was connected to another life, and even like doing more of these, because, and I can feel the calmness after the healing that happened last night and integrated overnight. And that's what, it's not a punishment. It's just literally, okay, oh yeah, that thing happened. I was a bit bent out of shape. I had a traumatic death, whatever. And those soul fragments, they need integrating. And there's multiple ways we can do that. I will do another live on that, at some point. But, our spiritual awakening, that, as I said, that first key awakening, it can completely turn your world upside down, and then it's the integration, like a cleanup after a storm, if you like. And it can be messy, and again, that's why I've written the book, so that if you're going through that, there's some really simple steps to go, right, sort this out. For example, chapter 3 is why me, okay, and that can be a really big factor in whether we feel okay or we don't feel okay about what's happening to us, because on the soul level, there's no time, there's no rush, there's no comparison, we're just all on that journey. But on a human level, I have compared myself to shit and been like, it's not fair. Even though when I was being sectioned, I had this feeling it was part of my soul journey, I still was like, it's not fair. Why now I feel judged and ostracized from everybody? I don't know who's safe in the world. I don't feel safe in my own skin. I feel really hurt, I really feel hurt and punished by the world, and all I've ever wanted is to help the world. I'll bend over backwards for people, and it just made me withdraw from people and go, you know what, I don't trust any of you, because if I say the wrong thing, I can see your eyes are rolling, and that's it. I'm like, it's 2 steps away from you getting on the blower and locking me up again. I'm not having it. So I've just really and I've really felt challenged by that. But actually, when you put it into the much bigger perspective, so in the Moonlight Key teachings that I do every winter, we use different animals for different levels of perspective, right? When you're in eagle view, you can just see it in the soul journey. Of course, this lifetime is going to be challenging. If you understand we're in a time of great awakening, we're coming into, some people say we're in the age of Aquarius. We are in the biggest transition that Earth has ever had, really, because we are living through an evolving, highly evolving, really quickly evolving time for all of us on all levels of our being, all levels of kind of organisation structures. They're all going to be going through their own awakening, if you like. It's going to look messy for a while. People are getting pissed off with the old ways. People are creating new ways. It's a lot of change. So it's the same within and without, right? So it can feel like you're being punished. It can feel like it's just so unfair. What's going on with me? But when you put it into context, it just all makes sense. Okay, we are the ones that are the cycle breakers, the curse breakers. Yeah, in our ancestors. One of the things that I saw years ago when I worked with a lady called Corinne Grillo, who I did my angel healing training with. You can find her online as well. Incredible healer and shaman lady, and it was healing something ancestral. And for me, I went in and there was all these Irish ancestors, okay, and part of my dad's lineage is Irish, and I saw it was like a standoff between like my family and these other Irish people, and it was like you could feel this tension, and I just had to keep asking questions, and ultimately whatever happened, it just started dissolving, and I could really feel it. But we always used to joke, there's the curse of the Andrews. It's why I don't use my surname. My given surname is Andrews. Mary is my middle name, and it doesn't mean that Andrews can never be clean. It's just like, it's not my blood, it's my step granddad's name, and it's not from my blood, but obviously is part of my wider karma of what I chose to come into, the family that I chose to come into. So there's many layers when you start realizing, shit, I've had my awakening, but it's not just easy sailing now. Honestly, the quicker you start connecting with your spirit team, your higher self, and your intuition, it is, because you can turn around those life lessons quicker. You can get the healing, you can start understanding. I just had a yogi tea now, and it was compassion brings understanding, and I would say it's the other way around as well. Understanding brings compassion. So rather than, oh my God, this is terrible, understand that part of you is feeling shitty because you're having all these challenges and you're being asked to make changes in your life. But actually, it's when you understand it, you just have compassion for yourself. You also have compassion for those around you who aren't going through it and are looking at you like, what the hell's going on with you? And it just becomes, okay, this is just what's happening. This is part of the nature of the shared reality that we're in right now. Okay. So I'm kind of moving through the book because it helps me order why I've offered. Okay, so when we're going through, this is why I was saying right at the beginning of the video, what might you expect from a spiritual awakening? My goodness me, a lot. Okay, so I use the chakras. So we know we've got these 7 main chakras in our body, and each part, it affects to our body, but it also affects our outer world. Okay, so in our root chakra, we've got safety, money, sense of self, maybe who you are in the world, who your tribe is. Okay, and if you felt unsafe there, you might start feeling really safe. Okay, you might feel suddenly more like, oh, I'm here, here's who I am. Your whole sense of identity might shift because how you lived suddenly doesn't fit anymore. You might change where you live. You might want to move really quickly. You might feel more inspired to, like, I know a lot of people this happens to, I think, in their awakenings, they'll be naked, they'll walk naked, or they'll take their shoes off because suddenly you're like, what the fuck do I have to wear all these clothes for? I went through a phase of doing and this wasn't even during my awakening, this was just because it really was pissing me off. It's really hot summer, and you'd see these guys walking topless and you think, why aren't I allowed to? We're not even allowed to breastfeed in a lot of places, let alone be topless. It's so, to me, it's just so insanely unequal. It's just ridiculous. And yes, you can say our breasts are sacred, but the whole body is sacred, and I was guided by spirit. It was like, this is not your tree to bark up, you've got other work to do. And if I was to get arrested for being naked, I just didn't need that, so I stopped it. But there'd be things that you might have been scared to do that you now feel safe to do, and actually you might start realizing the people you've around didn't make you feel safe, and I'm going to start being around other people. You might actually feel, I remember speaking up for myself and like questioning a friend of mine, and she went mad because normally I would just be quiet, yeah, passive, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I just, I answered back, and it was just, they were like, well, what are you on about? Because it was like, no, I have been keeping my mouth shut, flattened like a pancake, always a peacekeeper. I am a pacifist. I want peace, I want harmony for people. But there comes a time when you're like, nah, I'm not putting up with that, bye, or whatever. You just suddenly you start standing up for yourself, and people don't like it. They've seen you in one way, and when you become something else, it's like, whoa. So for example, in my in the end of sixth form, I started I'd gone to Glastonbury when I was 18, so actually it was between sixth form and university. And this was, to me, we're always awakening, because if you think of the tree, we're growing. Every time you push a new branch out, you could see it's like a form of awakening. Yeah, it just, if it's slow, then it's kind of unnoticeable. But when it's like kapow, that's when people around you are like, oh my God, like, and you're feeling yourself like, God, I've got to change everything, because suddenly you've come online with your soul in a way, and suddenly all the stuff that made sense before doesn't make sense. So with your root chakra, you might, as I said, you might want to move home. You might open up your creativity, throat chakra, so you might actually start speaking more than you did before, or you might be speaking differently. So sometimes in my life, I've had a very like Middle England accent, but actually I was born in London, so I should have a Cockney accent, but it was bullied out of me, so I started suppressing myself and have to double think how I was speaking everything. And the more I relax, if you'll see different videos, depending on how I'm feeling overall, is depending on how it is I'll be speaking to you. Because as I said, as a kid, I was real Cockney, and I say in it and all that, and now it's like, oh, you're putting it on. It's like, no, I was born in fucking Woolwich, mate. It's just that I've suppressed, so many people like, oh, you can't speak like this, for different jobs, you put in, and then when you awaken, you're just like, I don't want to have to fucking fit in. I don't want to suppress myself, because every time you suppress yourself, that's why with mental health, people say it's mental health. It's not, but the mental part of us, is compensating for all of the emotions that you've said, people have said you're not allowed, or you've said to yourself, I shouldn't have these emotions. All of that suppression, all that bullying, all that shoulding that just like crushes us. And when you act, you have to triple, quadruple think, how can I be in this situation? And obviously an amount of discernment and like kindness for people around you is necessary, but not to the point where you're not even sure of how you're meant to speak, right? And this is what will start unfurling when you're having that energy moving through your system. It's like fireworks going off, because all these crappy bits of all the crud that's like clogged up your chakras, it's like it's being plunged out, and poof, 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 poof. Yeah, so imagine that, right? The dark, and then this light blasting through. And so when that stuff's getting blasted through, obviously in an ideal world, you'd go for Reiki and you'd just dissolve it and you'd integrate it, and all of a sudden you'd come out and be this resplendent being. It doesn't happen like that for most of us. Not everyone's got the money to be able to have like energy healing every week for a year to just suddenly, evolve into this magnificent butterfly while they were in the cocoon. So it's why so many people have really wonky awakenings, and again, people getting locked up, which is in a way my special wish is to reach those people. But of course it's still relevant. You might just go and find friends and be able to stay with them, but you're still going, whoa, what's happening to me? If you don't quite trust that part of you that's saying this is okay, this is just you're coming home to yourself. All right, so what else might happen? If you move up to your sacral, you might be more sexual or less sexual. You might feel more close to people or be more discerning. So if you think the sacral is also our creativity, it's emotions, it's connecting, it's the womb, it's water, it's like where you are, how you connect with people. So again, like I said with my friend, I was like, actually, no, I don't agree with you. Oh, what the hell? Because suddenly I was like, I'm not just being a doormat here. I have an opinion. Just because I'm quiet doesn't mean I don't have opinions. I'm just good at shutting my gob, right? And so, how we act, and in all of my strong awakenings, I definitely had what I was going to say, not improved. Mind you could say improved, increased sexual activity. Okay, and again, people say, oh, it's because you're crazy. You're having a crazy, you're just being crazy. It's like, no, you're claiming back your sexuality. And again, we live in a world that you could say secular, but there's so much underpinning Christian beliefs. And I know I've had lives as a nun, and that has really been quite a problem for me, because a part of me has had the beliefs again and again and again, like maybe I just shouldn't really have sex, maybe it's destructive, maybe, or, and ultimately the truth of what I believe is, like, sexual intimacy with somebody you love is beautiful and activating, healing, harmonizing. It's an absolutely divine experience, okay? And I was always looking for that. I would be looking at, you that one? No, you're not that one. No, you're not quite that one. It's a match because you're a boy and I'm a girl, but it's just like, it's not there. But there was an element of me was like claiming back the right of of sexual interaction. And a lot of the times that was part of what brought up my Kundalini awakening, you see. And at the time I didn't join the dots, but that's what chapter 2 is about in the book, because it's like, if you look at the things that have led up to your profound Kundalini experience, that has led you to have this maybe really profound altered state and wanting to make loads of changes in your life, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you need it to be less severe, then if you look at the things that were building up, like for me, not having missing sleep, not eating so much, which food can ground us. I do believe will be less and less over the coming years, but that's a different video. Increased sexual activity, if I have coffee, that's not good for my energy system. It's too up. I don't need any of that up energy. Increased sexuality, all of those things and more can really affect why and when and how our spiritual awakenings take place, as well as solar storms and a Schumann frequency on Earth and certain astrological alignments. So for example, eclipses and things like this. So again, there's a lot that can be influencing why we have a particular experience of our awakening. Okay, but coming back to the chakras and what you might experience, in your solar plexus chakra, this is connected to our will, divine will, sense of self, purpose, ability to motivate ourselves, trust in that. It's connected to the mental body, so it's what you think, how you order your thoughts, how you like for example, me doing these videos, if I feel comfortable in my solar plexus, it's my divine right to do this, right? This is something that's satisfying for me. It's getting a lot of my contemplations out of my head and giving it to the public, right? And that feels great for me because, my goodness me, I've had so much insight moving through me. It can't just be for me. Maybe it was, but it's also what's helped me, I like to share. So that for me. Whereas if my solar plexus is too crushed because other people are putting their power over me, telling me I'm not good enough, we start crushing, okay? The minute we start opening, it's like, actually, I can do that. I feel good about myself. I know how to do this thing I want to do. And you set the wheels in motion and you start doing it, okay? So again, if in your awakening there might have been a lot of things that you were too scared of doing, and suddenly your chakras opened and you're like, bloody hell, I'm going to go and do this. And again, people who don't know your inside, because let's face it, no one actually knows all of your inner world, they might say, well, what's she doing that? But you wanted to do that for years, so it's not actually surprising for you, but from the outside, that's why a lot of people will be like, oh, what the hell is that happening? Yeah, so you're just becoming more attuned to your wishes and your inspirations that you've had in the past. So moving up to the heart space, obviously all to do with your heart, but it's also about acceptance yourself, accepting other people, compassion, knowing that you're connected to everything and all beings, and just being okay. No matter if there's war, you can accept all the beings involved, right? Every single being. There's no, I'll accept you, but I can't accept you, because underneath, we're playing these roles, but there's still these beings that are still our brothers and sisters, sparks of the divine, yeah? Connection, we're connected. So when you're in your heart, and that starts awakening in your in your spiritual awakening, you might feel much more easy to talk to people. And again, people will say, oh, you're crazy, you've got no inhibition. But why should we have inhibition? If we live in a place of grace and we're in heaven, right? Why are you guarding yourself? Okay, obviously you have a sense of self, that's where you choose yes or no, what people call boundaries, but that you can talk to a tree. You can commune with the animals, yeah? You can stand in a river and connect to the diva that is like the guardian of the river. You can talk to the angels. And a lot of people who are only existing on a low vibration, that is all bullshit for them. And to me, it's always been the way. I remember crying my eyes out because I was hearing they were cutting the Amazon down, yeah? And some people, it's like, oh, well, it's just progression. Yeah, whatever, it's not a progression that I would see, okay? But it depends where we're vibrating at, what our soul journey is, what our wisdom is, whatever. I've done bad shit, I know that. And a lot of times I've had to go and kind of connect to nature and be like, I'm so sorry, because I know in lifetime I haven't always made the best choices. I'm sure I've been ignorant and greedy and all the rest of it. So now I'm on the other side of the fence. It's really easy to see that and think, oh God, don't do it. Don't make that mistake that I've done in other lives, right? Maybe not in this life, but in other lives. So the heart, yeah, you're going to have a lot more ability to have, also when it connects to the third eye, because when we open our third eye, it isn't just, oh great, I can talk to my spirit guides and I can talk to Auntie Jan that passed over 20 years ago. It's also having the insight about why stuff happens. So like a lot of times people say, oh, this person did that, I can't believe they did that. And I'm like, yeah, I can, because probably that. Yeah, oh, I can't believe they were shitty to me. Yeah, well, if you had their childhood, you'd probably be shitty because you're still hurting, right? You start having an understanding, but when you connect it to your heart, you're also able to not be so blunt. And I know I've been blunt, and I've also been hurt by other people being blunt to me, and it's like, oh, you could have said that a bit differently. Seriously, really, you're going to land that to me? That's nice. It feels like a punch, in it. Yeah, no one likes to be corrected, but if you have it in your heart, you can see what's going on. Even just the moment of acceptance for somebody will start dissolving the judgment that say society can hold around, I don't know, be somebody that steals something. Once you realise, look at where they came from, they haven't been taught any better, their dad stole things that they need, whatever. You just have the understanding, there's no judgment there. It's just like, all right, they'll grow up, they'll learn, at the time that is right for them. Obviously, you might want to lock your doors and have some boundaries, but you don't just continually blame and judge and like ostracize people, because it just doesn't help. Okay, we've all wet the bed. No one keeps bringing that up and giving it to us. Obviously, it's a bit different from stealing from somebody, but you get my point in case, all right? So with the heart, obviously, we just access more love. And obviously, something that has taken me a very, very, very long time to really get my head around is self-acceptance and self-love. And I get it that when we can love the world, but if you don't have a balance of loving yourself, you'll really get out of whack. And again, that might be a pattern that gets so out of whack that then you're going to be really shown it. And I did a bit of this summer. I kind of overbooked myself, if you like, went to a lot of fairs and things. And afterwards, I just had like a few weeks where I was like, wow, I really just need to be, and I cannot take on too much. I can't really do that much. I really didn't have a check on what was in balance for me. Okay, even my period stopped, and I maybe my menopause in it, but it might have just literally been the amount of stress that I put myself under because I didn't quite check whether that would be a practicable timetable. Yeah, so these are things that even if you're aware of things, it can still take a time to come into real balance and have that discernment of what's right for you, and how we balance what we give to the world with caring for ourselves. Okay, and that's the type of things that you'll be addressing when you're awakening there. So coming up to throat chakra, and I've just writing about coming to peace with self-expression, and really remembering the times when I've had times when I'm just literally in silence because I'm at peace. Okay, which is very different from being at silence because you're triggered and you're like, I can't say anything and I feel ashamed. Okay, and we've all had different experiences where maybe somebody laughed at us and we felt they were really being mean, and other times when you might feel like they were laughing at you but they were kind of laughing with you. And these types of things can really affect our throat chakra and whether we feel safe to express ourselves. So again, when you're going through that awakening, with all that energy moving through your system, you might start talking a lot more than you ever had. You might be excited, and again, people say, oh, you're just having a high. Fine, you can call it what you will, but it's because the throat chakra is opening and there's a freedom that's starting, rather than this clamp that we might have had prior to that because of school, job, parent, friends, whatever, some kind of social conditioning that meant that you just shut your chakras. Yeah, so there's a balancing. And again, to me, when we're going through awakening, we might feel very clamped before. So I've put one of the chapters, actually I think chapter 4 might be, what is life like before. We're living in fear, we're contracted, we think we're this person but we're not, we're just living in our contractive fear-based self. The fight or flight system is basically running the show. And then when we awaken, we're not only opening our chakras, but we're starting to realize, shit, I'm not that person. That was the fear-based version of me, and now I'm coming open into, I'm opening up into the soul base. I'm going from fear-based living to love-based living. So again, with your throat chakra, there might be a time when you're just like blah 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 blah. I've seen this in different people. It's like you're offloading because you've just been pushing so much down to be, people are just saying all this random stuff, but it's like, oh my god, it's all this stuff I've been holding in. And then a balancing will happen, and this happens in every chakra, which is why my Coming to Peace series, if you look, there's the I think people call it a lemniscate, the infinity symbol, because in any theme of life there is literally the kind of good, the bad, and the messy, ugly, and then the middle part where you're in sacred neutrality. And for all of us, especially now more than ever on earth before, we're going through so many cycles, we're up leveling so many versions of ourselves. So where you think, this is how I talk, this is how I interact with people, when you start healing, you might have an extreme version, and then you kind of do this again, and then you do this, and then you're coming back and you go, actually, this is how I am. And it's more steady because it's just you've balanced that part of your life. Okay, and again, I mean, you perhaps I'll do that in another one where you literally can go through and balance your chakras, and you will just feel in harmony. It doesn't have to be messy, but until you understand about chakras, start doing chakra meditation, start calling, you can ask your guardian angel, just being reminded, can you balance my chakras for me? Then things just start feeling easier. There's no pushing, there's no resisting. You're just being, and you're flowing through life, which is what I'm finding more and more now. So let me just move up on our third eye chakra. You will be having insights, downloads, understandings, those aha moments, okay, and all of those are your psychic senses kicking in, if you like. It's funny, isn't it? We tend to think of the psychic senses being all around here, but actually the more you connect to your energies, different energy, your chakras, and more they balance, you'll be accessing what people will see these very pure abilities that are connected to all of your chakras, not just your third eye chakra. But that's the one that can really people understand. Oh God, I saw a ghost, or I had an actual vision, and I didn't realize that not everyone sees in their third eye, whereas I've always had like videos galore until I tune in and or I meditate or whatever, and I stop it because obviously I was shutting my chakras. But I've often felt like I'm seeing multiple timelines, and like one of my healers, Ben Zachary Shaw, that I worked with for a few years, he was able to share with me, indeed, I was accessing multiple timelines, and he said he'd never seen it before, and it's really challenging, but apparently I chose it. So there was a lot of information coming to me, and obviously I'm trying to interpret that. It's not particularly normal, but it absolutely can happen. We can bleed into, we can have past life flashbacks, all that stuff, and I've had a lot of those in my life, but not all the time, because actually when I'm being grounded, I don't need my third eye to be open, but it does mean that you start having intuitions and knowings, and that can be comforting, but it can be very disconcerting. So this is why having an understanding, it becomes less scary. You can just actually use those skills and start reading up. You can research about it, how to use it, how to shut it down, how to access the skills without it being a problem in my life. So I don't know, it's fine. My computer just went, I'm sleeping now because I've been on for too long. So coming up, we're just on an hour, so I'm going to wind up with crown chakra. All right. Really important chakra, because obviously that's where we open and we connect to source, and that's where, if that is open, if it's open too much, we might have a really profound, like too much energy, too much happening. I would say that probably happened to me, okay, in my thing. But all the time I was always praying like for a lot of my life, or thinking about God, talking to God, because when you've had trauma, you just want to get out, you want to be back in heaven, you want to connect to that higher energy field, or higher energies rather. So in a way you can become again really unbalanced, ungrounded, unearthly, okay? And so it's taken me time to come back down my chakras, heal and get back in my body, because when you have chakras, it usually connects to the lower part of our body. You clench up your psoas muscles, you lower, your legs are feeling stress, so you're starting to do this, and when you're relaxed, obviously you bring your energy field all the way back down, and you're much more grounded. And this is where, and I'll do another video on this, integrating your spiritual awakening. All right, so it's you could talk for hours and hours and hours about how to integrate your spiritual awakening, because we are all so different. But there are a few key tools that you can do if you've had that profound awakening and you think, I don't want to have it so strong again. Do these things and it will start helping you iron out the difference, the anomalies and the different waves that you're feeling in different areas of your life, and it will start calming down, because you're becoming into alignment with your truth, and you just take some small steps every day and shift your reality so it's in alignment with that, how you want to be living, what your soul is inspiring for you today. So I hope that was useful for you. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the comments box below, and if there's something, have a drink. If there's something that you would like me to talk about in the future, do write them in the comments there, and we'll see if we can cover. I have been waiting to do this for quite a few years, and I wanted to get other things in alignment, in order first. But so I've got a backlog of videos that I'm going to be sharing. But in summary, if you're having an awakening, it's amazing, and your life is going to be so different from that which you maybe imagined, or maybe you're going to live the life that you did imagine, but you never knew how you'd get there. And honestly, it's one of the most exciting times of your life. But I know from my own journey, it can be very challenging. So there we are. Go ahead and just do some research as well, because you'll find so many people that will talk about their journey and things that they're now doing because they're living in alignment with their intuition. They're following their intuition. They're following their soul's dreams. And it's just the most wonderful and fulfilling experience. And you will just feel so at peace when you start making those changes. And it can happen. So wherever you are in your journey, don't be stressing. Your spirit team have got you, and you're exactly where you're meant to be. And just make your prayers and start getting used to listening to those intuitive nudges and take those steps. Trust yourself and be discerning about who you're with and what you're up to, and just take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.